Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Patricia Florin. Welcome to the show. Thank you for.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I shared this with Patricia last time, but Patricia was my birth mum's name. So this is particularly poignant because Patricia's birth mum. And we had a real superb conversation last time, like a couple of months ago now, but it's all coming flooding back to me. So Patricia's written a book. As always, listeners, check out the show notes to find out more about the guests if they pique your interest. So we're going to talk a little bit about Patricia's reunion, but we're going to start off by asking a question that Patricia wanted. Well, thought would be a good lead in, which is why you wrote the book. So why did you write the book? Why did you get this out there?
So I was part of a support group, and we had adoptees coming, birth mothers, and adoptive parents. And a lot of the questions that came up was, why? Why did you relinquish me? Or why did she relinquish me? And I felt there was a hole in not presenting the stories, not in small part, because we were hidden. Birth mothers were hidden. This was closed adoption. We weren't allowed to know each other. And to avoid becoming, ostracized or humiliated in those days, we kept it a secret. Why did we give them up? And so I wanted to give these women a chance to speak, to tell their stories, to put it out in public. And there are a variety of stories from me. I was 15 when I got pregnant, 16 when I gave birth, and I was hidden in our family home while I was pregnant, to a few other single women, to even a couple of married women who had relinquished. And I wanted to start to answer that question through those experiences. I wrote it for the women to have a voice, and I wrote it for the adoptees to have the beginnings of answers.
And this is was this the 60s or the 70s, or what when are we talking?
Well, the stories in the book, the first one is in 1959 and the last one is in 1983. My own story was 1972 is when my daughter was born.
Yeah. Okay. So I was born 67, so things had opened up a little bit, but we were still in the dark ages compared to where we are now.
Yeah. And I lived in a pretty in a community, in a Catholic community, in a conservative suburb. Yeah, it was dark ages there still. Yeah.
So dark ages, yeah. Can you give us a bit of you described meeting your daughter, meeting her again, I guess.
Yeah.
And crying the purest of tears, and out of the darkness, you're in seeing a white, experiencing a white light. Can you give us a bit of context to that and a run up to that?
Well, so I was 16 and hiding in our home, and I gave birth to her on Easter Sunday, 1972, and they said I could give her a name, April Dawn. And I was a mixture of thrilled and just the grief was, it was so big, I had to push it away. And for the next 16 years, I pushed the grief away. I couldn't deal with it. Had 2 more children, married, moved. I wanted to deal with it, but it was blocked. So then I get the phone call. They had found me from the old town that I had lived in through a personal ad found by someone I know who called me. And my whole world came to a standstill. Suddenly, from this hiding, I had to tell our sons that they had an older sister. I had to tell my in-laws. I had two brothers who hadn't even known I'd had her. No friends knew, nobody knew. Suddenly, life's at a standstill. And what next? Well, I was thrilled she found me.
Wow.
It was so it was this fascinating mix of being thrilled and having life at a standstill and saying, now you're going to deal with this. And my greatest wish for our reunion was to keep her in my life. I didn't want to lose her again. That would kill me. So we did arrange to meet. I flew from Oregon with our boys, and my husband was already in Florida where we were going. And she lived in Florida, and we met in the airport. And her mom pushed her forward and she was already crying. I came up to her and we just glommed onto each other. We just held onto each other, and tears, they felt like as the purest tears I've ever shed. And I could see nothing, but felt I was standing in white light. She and I were just standing in this beautiful, pure light of love. Moments don't get any better than that. Yeah. That doesn't mean things have been, you know, easy, although our reunion has been successful. But that's like the first throes of love, although it wasn't first. These were so long time coming, so long time being able to hold on to each other. I did get to touch her head in the delivery room, but that's it. I did see her through the nursery glass, but I couldn't see because the grief was so strong and it was pushing me away, saying, you can't do this. And the only way to do it was to shut down. So in that moment of holding on to her, I think everything was opening up. And what the first thing, the only thing that was most important was that pure love.
Wow. It's so visceral, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
So this was, I can't do the math. 670, 78? Was it 70?
No, so she was born
88.
in 72, yeah. And this was in 1988.
88, yeah. 88, yeah. Yeah. I used to do maths, do okay. 88. So 23 minus 88. This is 23 plus 12. This is 23 plus 12.
She was 16.
Yeah. And now
I was 6. Oh, now she's, am I allowed to tell your age, Andrea? We just gave you birth here. Now she's 50.
Yeah.
She's 50. Yeah.
Wow.
And we still have a very good, strong, sound relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the purest tears then, because what was that about? Why were the purest tears?
So much of the experience was me hiding in shame. Shame painted everything I did. I continued to hide for all those years, not telling people about her, keeping secrets. How many children do you have? And I would always hesitate. Yes. And then the confusion, can I count her as a child? Or anyway, purest tears, the shame left the building, so to speak. There was no shame. There was just the beauty. of a mother and her child reuniting. No agendas.
No agendas.
No
So
agendas.
the tears washed away the shame in a way.
Oh, were that easy? No.
Oh, okay.
In that moment, it did.
yeah.
In that moment, and for that whole trip, I felt like I was in a fairy tale. We just got to be together. We couldn't, holding hands, and she was hanging out with her brothers, and they had such a good time. And then when we had to leave, I was shocked that I felt bereaved again. I thought all right, I'm cured. Well, no. The bereavement comes at odd times. Every time we had to say goodbye, it would wash over me. And the shame, I had to start telling people. If I wanted her in my life, I had to start telling people that she'd been born and who she was. And having lived with you're going to be a pariah, you're going to be humiliated and shamed if you tell, it was difficult to do that. And what I realized is each person I told, having conversations with my brothers, having a conversation, my mom had died at this point, just sad, but so she wasn't there, but having conversation with my dad, with my brothers, with my in-laws, with our sons, with my friends, each time I had to come out with the secret and destroy it. And the difficulty was the shame that was just so tight and gripped me. But each time I did, it let loose a little bit. It took a few years for that to really release its grip and some work. But
yeah. What did the work look like?
Well, at first it looked like recognizing it was so helpful that I lived in a different time now. This wasn't the 60s, and I lived in a very conservative community. It wasn't that mentality. Women were raising children on their own. They were having pregnancies out of wedlock all the time. This was an accepted thing. And so I'm still carrying the last decade's beliefs, and I had to let go of that. That's part of what the work that helped. But then I had to look inside, and I was angry, very angry. Why did we let go of our family? And now I'm including my mom, my dad, who were part of this decision. And really, I didn't have any other decision. I was 16 and still in school. But I had a lot of anger, had to work through that. And eventually I stumbled into the work of, non-duality, Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, Byron Katie. Byron Katie was very helpful. She has a system called The Work, and you ask 4 questions and do a turnaround of anything you're really believing. And that has really done a lot for me to do that work. And to recognize, so what is who did this happen to? This is where I'm gonna, hem and haw, because there is the separate selves we believe ourselves to be and we're conditioned to be, and then there's the pure self. If that moment of pure tears it showed me nothing. It showed me that we have other layers here. That pure self, what is that? And so I did some studying in Buddhism too, and that kind of work, between the psychological work and the spiritual work together, all part of my healing.
I came up with something last year that I loved. It was a little bit far out, but for a lady of your caliber and consciousness, I don't think it will be too far out for you. So I'm going to ask you a question, if I may, and the question is there a belief? Sorry, is the belief that there is something called or such as limiting beliefs itself a limiting belief?
Is there such a thing as a limiting belief?
Yeah. Well, isn't a belief in them itself a limiting belief?
Yes. Belief is limited. So when we can let go of that, oh, this is going to get into real airy fairy, but beliefs can be helpful, but they are limited in what they can do. And when we let them condition us, for example, the belief that giving birth as an unwed mother was shameful, I let that belief condition all my actions and everything I did. So the work would be questioning that belief. Is it shameful? Can I be absolutely sure? How do I feel when I think that thought? Who would I be if I didn't have the thought? And what are some other ways of thinking? And when I do that, it releases itself. It releases itself. Yeah. Makes us go ahead.
Yeah. I was taking us down quite perhaps an esoteric road, so I'll go back to firmer ground. Did I tell you about the letter from Patricia? Did I tell you about that?
You did. Yeah. You did.
Yeah. So, if you haven't heard this, listeners, I'll put a link in the show notes to another episode where I discuss this and a video where I read out the letter from my birth mother. So the letter wasn't from me, but reading it had a similar effect on me as meeting a daughter for the second time had on Patricia, in the sense of the tears part. I didn't get. I'm reading it. I was reading a letter, not hugging my daughter, so it's not as visceral an experience. But believe me, it felt pretty visceral. It felt very visceral at the time, and I felt that the tears washed away my anger towards her. And bearing in mind, I'd only had 40 seconds of anger in my life, 40 seconds of conscious anger about her. And yet, they were 40 of the worst seconds of my life, right? And the tears washed that away. So the tears washed the anger to Patricia away, and I felt as one with her. I felt that there was no separation between me and her, and I'd go as far to say that I have felt that lack of separation in other circumstances. So I felt that at concerts, actually, at pop concerts. I felt that whilst listening to the national anthems in rugby. in rugby stadiums, I have felt a sense of oneness, and I don't think it is just a sense of oneness with my birth mother, Patricia, or a sense of oneness with the other people that like listening to the Killers, or the other people that are in the rugby stadium. It's a sense of oneness with everything in the world, and for me, that's a sense of infinity rather than the finite self, and yeah, and the tears washed away the separation and led me to those, lead me to seeing that we are infinite. And that phrase, that sentence that I use quite a lot on the show about us being one spiritual being having 7 billion human experiences, the 1 billion, sorry, the one spiritual being is that infinity, and it's limited beliefs are completely blown away in those moments of infinity.
Yes. Well, in that moment with Andrea in the airport, and all I experience is white light, I didn't understand everything that moment was at the time, but I think it was that your experience, that oneness, that's what's real. And yes, we're 7-8 billion people, individuals having experiences within that oneness. Yeah.
So you said you didn't understand what was happening.
On that level, on the esoteric level.
Me neither, because this isn't a rational thing. This is
No.
This is a felt experience, and yeah, it is. It's not. It's not something that can be rationalized in a brain, only sensed in the tingling of our bodies.
It can be experienced, but not explained. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. And sometimes it's less dramatic than that. I think, you mentioned Rupert Spira and Eckhart Tolle. I read an Eckhart Tolle book probably 15 years ago, and had one of those bright. Did I tell you about this? A bright light moment. It wasn't a bright light. Wasn't quite as extreme as that. So the book I'm talking about is The Power of Now. It's quite a short book. But the sentences are incredibly long, and it's incredibly deep. But he explains he explains his awakening experience on a park bench, doesn't he? In London. And the day after I read the book, I was sitting. Me and my wife were sitting in a beach bar. We're on holiday in Turkey, and we're sitting in a beach bar on the edge of the building. So there was this straw roof above us, and then there's the sea, 60 feet below us. And suddenly there was a peaceful moment, and then suddenly all the colours turned up. All the colours turned up. So the Turkey's very hot in the, it's hot most of the year round, but very hot in the summer. So it's very arid and dry. And so there's a sense that it's kind of light brown scrubland, right? Because there's no trees growing from the view from this beach hut. The yellows became brown, and the sky, as the sea went from kind of a mid blue to almost like a jet black, inky blue. Right? And I heard the wind whistling in the straw roof, and then I don't know how long it lasted, but then it came back round. I came back round to normality, and I said to my wife, why do we only come here for a week? So, and for the following 10 years, we went to that place for 2 weeks. But that's what does the story. There is a big point to the story, is the fact that I chalked that experience down to the environment and the holiday, and it came through me. It was feelings come from us, not to us. It's an inside. Feelings are an inside job, and in the Western culture, we're led to believe that the external world decides our feelings, when our feelings come from us, not to us. And whilst we believe that our feelings come from the outside world, we're trying to change our outside world to give us the experience and the feeling that we think it's going to give us. And we're barking up the wrong tree. I heard another Rupert Spira fan, saying this lunchtime on a podcast. It's like going, American guy, comedian. It's like going to the hardware store for milk.
Yes.
We're looking in the wrong place. This is a guy called Pete Holmes, a stand-up comedian, interviewed by a lady called Kathy Heller. Yeah, we're looking in the wrong place.
For happiness, for truth, for the deeper reality, for
all those things.
Okay.
All those
and
things.
You're saying the experiences, like the one with the letter with your mom, or the one where I'm holding my daughter, or the one in Turkey, are all glimpses of this deeper reality we're looking for.
Yeah, it's us. It's us without our conditioning. It's us shackled from our trauma. It's us unshackled. It's us unveiled. So Rupert Spira talks about it being unveiled. So the shame. This is the critical thing for our conversation, because the shame is felt for it's felt by adoptees and birth.
Is it? And just tell me, can we drift off adoptee shame? What's
the shame? It's the shame of not being good enough.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not the truth of who we are.
No.
And now I'm upset because I've upset you. It's like you've had it so tough, my love. You've had it so tough, Patricia. the two Patricias in my life, Patricia Florin and Patricia Flower, both the same initials, right?
Yes.
And the middle name, we said this last time. You're
Jay.
Jane, yeah. And
Yeah.
you're a Jane, are you? A Jane?
I am.
Yeah.
PJFs. Yes.
Yeah. So PJF, yeah. So my birth mother, Patricia, Joan Flower. So the two PJFs in my life have had such, 16 years of shame. This isn't a shame competition, but I'm so sorry,
Well, and I'm sorry that you've had to carry that I wasn't good enough feeling. And there's,
most of mine was to do with most of mine was business stuff. It wasn't adoption stuff. It really wasn't.
Well, things translate into other areas of our lives, but these are the things.
I think they compound actually, but I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think they add on. I don't. A good shrink, I'm sure, would be able to convince me that they were connected. It's felt by everybody though. Everybody, just like we have more of it. The separation from our essential self is a human thing. It's something birth mothers feel, it's something that adoptees feel, and it's something that everybody feels. Just we have more of it in our wheelbarrows.
I think the adoption itself comes with this trauma. Even in an open adoption, this happens.
It's a good job that we know that what's veiled by that trauma, isn't it?
Yes. Now, you and I speaking,
we've done the work.
We have done the work, and we know what was underneath all along. And we got those gifts. I consider being able to hold her for so many reasons, but that first time and that light and those tears, the gift of here's what's there. You're going to have to do some work to get there more reliably, but yeah, because I was still believing all the stories. But
I've just done another before we spoke. I've just done another podcast, and we talked about the idea that the mist, the veil comes and goes. The veil comes and goes, and that is not how we are. That's not how we perceive learnings in the West. So yes. Once we have learned to ride a bike, we don't forget. But once we have unveiled, once we've seen behind the veil of the trauma and seen the light and the perfection of who we truly are, the veil comes back again. And now we're, on one hand, it's less scary. And for me, the fear kind of morphs, or the fear and the anger, whatever it is, that sometimes that morphs into more like frustration, or when frustration, like I had it and now I've lost it.
But so I've been in a few of Rupert Spira's online retreats, and I can hear him in my head. I don't know how accurately, but you've never lost it. You can't lose it. The veil is there again, but the more we sit in the, what do we want to call it? Our true nature, the more the veils will stop throwing themselves over us. that requires, meditation and questioning what we're thinking. And yeah, I just got his new book, You Are the Happiness You Seek. That's it in a nutshell. You said inside versus the Western world looking outside for answers. But it's inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try and do a bit of Rupert for an hour a day.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because he has some on his website. He has some recordings. Because I couldn't sit. I wouldn't want to sit in a. He does day events or week events, doesn't he? And I would go and do one of those. I guess I will do sooner or later. But I couldn't sit watching him for a day on my computer. But I can listen to him for an hour when I'm walking the dog, and some of his longer audios off his website. They're like 50 hours long, so you can just another one every day. And it's being, as another mentor of mine said, it's like being pickled in it.
Yes.
Pickled in the understanding.
Yeah. Steeping, so, like tea.
Steeping. Yeah. Well, yeah. But like steeping. So, I saw I saw a show on telly. A British girl had just met an American guy, and she was bemoaning the fact that he didn't leave the tea bag in long enough. So she said it's got to be in for 2 minutes, she reckoned, to make a good cup of tea. I don't know how long. I guess it's just personal preference. But yeah, 2 minutes to dip a tea bag. But pickling can be like months, can't it?
That's true. That's true.
Pickling.
Yeah.
And I've been pickling myself in this stuff for probably 14 years now, I'd say.
Yeah.
And it gets richer and richer, and the veils get thinner and thinner.
Yes.
And come back less and less frequently. And we bounce back quicker.
That's brilliant, though. That you can do that. You've done the work. Yeah.
But as you said, it's lifelong stuff. It's continuous learning. It's not once and done. It's an ongoing.
Yeah. And this way of healing may not be everyone's cup of tea. People have. We're still on tea.
I like the way you did
that. We have, and whatever ways that, for me, again, it's that psychological and spiritual work working together. Whatever that means for you, whatever is really giving you a boost, a lift, sending you the better direction. Yeah.
And it's not for, I get it, and I get you, and I totally agree with you. It's not for everybody. If people are still listening, it probably is for them then.
That's true. If they're still listening,
Simon and Patricia have really just gone completely nuts. So
I don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't even know what they're talking about. Yeah. The metaphors, though, that's where we make the metaphors and the stories. That's where we make the abstract concrete. That's where. So my favorite metaphors for metaphors is the invisible man. So he's invisible. You can't see him until he puts his suit on, and he puts his bandages around his head, and he puts his hat on and he puts some gloves on. So that's what metaphors do. They allow us to take the stuff that is abstract, non-physical, and make it physical. That's why pickling and tea and that kind of helps us make sense of this, because our brains can't get our heads around stuff that isn't.
No.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can't see spirit, can we? We can only feel it.
You can only sense it, yeah, or be it. Uncover, take everything off, which is what meditation's sort of about, and rest in it. Yeah. We can't see it. We can feel it. We can experience it. In fact, we are it.
We are.
Once yeah. One spiritual man had said, we are all the living metaphors. All of this is a metaphor. Life is a metaphor. It's just, that took me a while. I still haven't come to terms with that one, but
it's the it's the immaterial made material. So the material is the metaphor.
Or
doesn't Rupert Spira talk about?
I'm not sure.
At 7, he said, "Isn't this is the universe is God's play or something?" I can't remember. The one, universe, one song.
How lovely.
So it's a seeing thing, not a doing thing.
Yes.
So you talked about undressing. So we take off. We are the piece that we seek, that is covered by, that is veiled by. That's veiled by our clothes. So in a physical way, we don't become ourselves by getting undressed. We were always ourselves. Just coming.
Well, and what we undress. Yeah. Well, habit.
Yeah. I was thinking about habits, as in, so habits are something that a nun wears and something that we do. Like
conditioning.
Conditioning.
Yeah. We're culturally conditioned. We're all our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations, the things we're so used to experiencing that we don't even pay attention to anymore. These are the things that are veiling that underground, that being, that ground of being. Or let's see if we can use Rupert's metaphor, the universe who's having the play. I mean, all these conditions are veiling that. Our habits veil
and
reality.
Trauma veils reality, and
you bet.
Shame
yes.
veils reality.
Yes.
Shame veils reality.
Definitely. If you're believing those stories. Brene Brown is a shame expert here in the US. She's written some books on it, and she differentiated shame from guilt. Guilt is something I did wrong, something bad. Shame is I am bad. And I really looked at that long and hard, questioned those beliefs.
Did we talk about? I love that. I wouldn't want to be a shame expert though.
She talks about that. She has a very popular TED talk about shame. You know, and people say, "What do you do for a living?" Well, she's sitting on an airplane. Well, they don't want to hear you're a shame expert.
Did we talk when last time we spoke? Did we talk about David Hawkins and Power versus Force? Did we talk about that?
No, but I know who David Hawkins is.
Yeah, not the biologist guy, not Richard Hawkins.
No, not Richard
David Hawkins.
Dawkins. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Dawkins. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that scale of consciousness, that is an
Yes.
epic book. It's an epic book in terms of he has this scale of consciousness, listeners, and the book is called. I'll put it in the show notes. It's called Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And do you remember anything about the scale?
No, I don't. I have looked at it.
It
But
goes from 0 to 1,000. So your bright light experience is probably, I'm guessing here, and I looked at the book recently, probably about a 600, or maybe higher. The great religious avatars, Buddha and Jesus and Krishna, they calibrate at 1,000, and it's a logarithmic scale. So the difference between 0 to 1,000 is huge. Yeah, it's not like 0 to 1,000. It's like 0 to a billion. It's huge. It's not like 0 is dead. Would you like to hazard a guess where shame is?
oh, somewhere around 10.
Close.
You're alive,
20,
but
20.
20. Okay.
20. Pride is 180. Anger is 50. I can't remember all of them. But yeah, shame is 20. It's seriously
Damaging.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I think a mother's unconditional love for her child, I think that comes in about 450.
Comes in where?
About 450, I think.
Okay. It's beautiful.
So that gap, that leap from 20 to 450,
That's pretty big.
and the drop the other way around. So your drop from giving birth from 450 going to 20, then going back, so you've got a peak experience to level.
Yeah. But I no longer fall back into shame.
No.
That's finished. That's finished. So it's like having to crawl out of a pit. Yeah.
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 That's from the darkness to the light. Wow. I felt I was being a bit left brainy and reducing it to the numbers there, but this understanding of that, I'm encouraging you listeners, if you're interested in this, have a look at that David Hawkins book, because he's got the numbers, and he's got the descriptors of the different levels, and it becomes a lot less a lot easier to understand, and a lot less, a lot more concrete, a lot more tangible when we look at these different levels, and we can see how basically we're fluctuating, and we're fluctuating, but we're going up the ladder, and then we're dropping down again, and we're going up the ladder, and we're going down, but and that's the path, that's the journey to back to where we always were, because that's Richard. Rupert Spire talks about that. He had to go all the way around the world, intellectually, and to the east, to come back and find himself where he'd always be.
Well, he's got a brilliant mind, and he's such a clear teacher. When I need clarity, that's where I go. Yeah. So,
Patricia, is there anything else you'd like to share?
well, I just to a couple of messages to, not that it's my place, but just from me personally to adoptees. Oh, I hope you can see you were the innocents in all of this. You're the innocent. It was never about you being good enough, not good enough. And to any birth families out there still hiding, still buying into the shame and the cultural garbage that goes with that, walk away. Come join where we can meet our children, develop relationships. I do know women who are still hiding, and it just breaks my heart for all of them. So that would be it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And send Andrea my love.
I will. Thank you. And thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, listeners, and we will speak to you again very soon. Bye-bye.